Hey guys, we're just about ready to get started and wanted to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. Today we will also be live on Facebook, and so if anybody wants to go over to our Facebook channel, just go to Facebook, Get Fluid, and you can actually watch the live presentation that we're doing here with Dave Vance at VidAngel today. Quickly, Phil Case is going to be joining us, but he will be late, and so we might see him walk in here briefly, and so we're excited for that. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick off this month's Fluid Webinar Series event. This month's webinar is video, turning eyes to buys, and we're really excited. We think it's a great topic, and just know that there's a lot of people exploring video at the moment, and those who have seen just the rise of video, everybody kind of knows how big it really has gotten, and so we're excited to teach you some tips and tricks on how you can get started, whether you're doing your own live events or your own business videos. And so I want to introduce real quickly Dave Vance of VidAngel. Dave Vance is the marketing director for VidAngel. Dave, do you mind introducing yourself real briefly?
Sure thing. So I work in a couple of different roles. I'm director of marketing at VidAngel, which is a filtering company that lets you watch filtered movies on any major device. And then I work as an ad writer for the Harmon Brothers. So I was the lead writer on the Squatty Potty ad, Purple, the VidAngel ads, and then a contributing writer on FiberFix, which just recently came out. And then I also write for a sketch comedy show called Studio C.
Fantastic. Well, Dave definitely has the credentials to be helping us learn more about video today, so we're very excited to have him. We're very excited to be down here at VidAngel. Thanks again for having us.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Again, my name is Dustin Cederholm. I'm the digital marketing director for Fluid, and Phil Case, our managing director and partner of Fluid, will also be joining us shortly. You'll see him come in. Without further ado, though, let's just jump right into it. Today, we will not be tweeting live as we normally do. Some of our support staff is out of town, and so if you do have questions, feel free to still post them on Twitter, and we will answer them after the webinar. And you can reach both of us at our handles, at GetFluid and at VidAngel. Quickly, let's geek about video, I guess. Why are we so passionate about video? And I know I love video, and that's kind of why I've started videoing the webinars and even some of the video that you guys out there may have seen Fluid doing with our ads of the week, our employee videos, and then even our real-life marketing, which we're doing with businesses and going into their companies and learning more about their marketing from an industry standpoint. You can see that at getfluid.com/real-life-marketing, and those are just some of the videos we've done, and I know Dave's pretty passionate about video. What makes you so passionate about video, Dave?
So I kind of found my way into video by accident. I was pre-med going into college, and actually my favorite class in college was Intro to Film, but I didn't think much of that until years later when I started kind of wandering this direction. So I was pre-med for a while, did management consulting for a while, and then was writing for Studio C on the side just because I loved it. And then the more I wrote and the more I tried other things, the more I realized that I just loved video and really didn't enjoy the other things I was trying, so I found my way kind of into the ad and content world. I'd say I love video just because in my opinion, it's the most engaging way to tell a story. It's online. I mean, maybe VR will surpass it as it becomes more accessible, just as far as just different types of media you can use to reach out to people. For me, it's hard to beat video.
I would completely agree. I mean, I love video so much because of the emotional ties and just quickly showing some of that. I think that there's just so much that goes into a video, whether it's the characters that we fall in love with, the story, the plot twist, whatever it is, it can just really consume you, and it's something that you can share with your friends and that you carry with you well after. And I think even that ultimately feeds really well into the ad space as well, where we're trying to, in such a short amount of time, create a memorable and lasting impression that is actually actionable as well. And so that's one of the reasons I think it's so important, and we hope you guys share our passion as well. Real quickly, we wanted to go through just the rise of video. As most of us know, YouTube is one of the largest second largest search engine in the world at this point, and in general, the amount of video that's being consumed is just continuing to skyrocket. Here are just a few stats about how much growth it really has seen, and some of the ones I wanted to point out were the how-to searches are up 70% year over year from 2014 to 2015. I think that's important because that's one of the video types we'll talk about later, but also one of the video types that everybody can kind of do, in my opinion. And other than that, YouTube reports mobile video consumption rising almost 100% every single year. And so we continue to see just the mobile takeover and how video fits into that as well. Any thoughts on just mobile or video growth as you've seen it?
I guess what I've been most surprised by lately is that it seems like Facebook, at least from my vantage point, Facebook seems to be winning the video ad war lately,
Yeah.
in large part because they kind of cut YouTube off at the knees with their algorithm where, you know, if you post a YouTube video on Facebook, it's now like preferentially not shared. It doesn't autoplay. The link is much less attractive. Whereas if you post a native Facebook video on Facebook, it autoplays. You can have subtitles running. The algorithm favors it. So Facebook's done a pretty good job, I think, of kind of stealing a large chunk of the online video ad market from YouTube. Then there's the other fact that they haven't policed their freebooting very well either, so they're kind of illegally hurting YouTube as well.
Right, sure. And you actually bring up a lot of really big points that we want to touch on further as we go along, but Facebook's native ad content has been huge, and you're actually seeing Fluid put more and more ads or videos natively onto Facebook versus YouTube to, you know, just validate that point. And the growth that we've seen almost 600% growth in impression share just by doing that. And so Facebook is really helping us get that out as long as we play by Facebook's rules.
Yeah.
Some things that, you know, I hear a lot as far as B2B versus B2C video, and is it more for retail versus the B2B side of things? And so here are just a few stats about why video marketing works. I think that it's a fantastic outlet for either side, and I think that's been proven by a lot of the people's use of it. And so just looking here at some of the engagement rates by including video, I mean, just some very impressive numbers. Revenue 49% faster by using videos, and then just the trust factor of video for when you go to look for a service or a product that maybe isn't easy to use. You can use a very quick how-to video to show a user how they would use that product, and that makes it just so much easier for the user to trust it and want to buy it. Have you seen video in marketing? How have you been using it, I guess, Dave?
Yeah, so I definitely say we've been using it for how-to purposes at VidAngel. So we found, just for instance, that our sellback model at VidAngel was a major customer hurdle for new customers coming in. So we just created a quick 30-second video to explain just the steps that you go through when you first become a VidAngel customer, and to kind of create this vicarious experience for the new user of them seeing somebody else go through those initial steps. And it just seems to work so much more smoothly than like writing it out in text or something like that.
Sure.
It doesn't allow the new user to skim or to miss important parts while keeping them engaged, I think.
Yeah, great point. I mean, solving some of those harder hurdles that you might not be able to get over with just simple text. And people just don't read anymore anyway, so video is such a better way to consume.
Yeah, so we're contributing to the illiteracy of a nation.
I don't know if that's a negative or positive thing. It's just kind of a
heavy burden to bear,
isn't it? But you do it well.
Thank you. A little kind of backhanded compliment.
I don't know.
You contribute well to the illiteracy of America. That's how we got to where we are.
Just change of user behavior, and unfortunately, I think we've seen that. You could argue that back to, you know, the 1920s and even longer. Just the fact of advertising,
like yellow journalism. And
yeah. So I mean, I think times will always be changing. Just with that, let's talk about how times have changed and some of the different types of videos that are emerging. I wanted to just put in the production video. I think that's probably one of the more common videos that we all know about, whiteboards and, you know, well-produced ads, a lot of the stuff that Dave and his team are doing. I mean, Squatty Potty, that's amazing video, well-produced. talk to us a little bit about production videos as they are and what you've put into them.
Sorry, could you?
And by kind of what I mean, what types of videos? I know you guys have done a lot of real life, but in the example of Squatty Potty, you use an animated figure as well. How have you kind of combined those two things, and what does it take to produce that type of ad?
Gotcha. So the main goal of Harmon Brothers is we want to take what made infomercials great and cut out everything that made them crappy, and then just make the ad as entertaining as possible. Because if you bring in the sales aspect of infomercials and then bring in the entertainment aspect that we try to inject into every one of the Harmon Brothers videos, we find that we keep people engaged enough throughout that we can get through a full sale and then get them to purchase. So I'll elaborate on that a little bit more later on, but that's somewhat of the formula. And then the other goal is we want to create content that's as entertaining as anything else that you'll find on YouTube or Facebook, and then just get you to buy something at the end.
That's fantastic. And I think most people, when we talk video, they think production videos, and we want to show that there are a few other examples of that, so it doesn't always have to be a really high-end video that you're making, and it still can achieve the goal that Dave was just talking about, that it's entertaining but also sells something at the end.
Yeah, and we just shot actually a couple weeks ago a political ad. It's coming out for Gary Johnson, and we shot it on a shoestring budget. We didn't have like the giant production budget you see on a Squatty Potty, but it's still something we're pretty proud of, and we think that it will be persuasive given the budget constraints within which we shot.
Absolutely, that's definitely something we want to continue to emphasize with everybody out there, that this doesn't have to be a huge investment. And actually, moving into the next one is one of the more low budget options that you have. But if you think about famous YouTubers, Etsy, salespeople, mommy bloggers, things like that, they're using the blog or the video blog more effectively.
I do my makeup tutorials.
Dave's makeup tutorials can be found as well.
They've gone mega viral.
And Dave's going to talk more about virality a little bit later and how to do it, but these are some of the things. They're so personal. You really get to connect with the person that you've been following and whatnot, and then you get to connect with your audience in such a way that they become more and more attracted to you and more aligned with you in a way that if you just put on a picture of yourself and a short bio, it just really doesn't do the same trick. And so these can be really short videos. They can even be long videos. They can turn into a lot of different things. But ultimately, it's kind of a household way of doing a blog in a way to turn text back into that video and put some more of that emotion that we don't have. Any other thoughts on just video blogs or anything you have there, Dave?
So I'm admittedly not super experienced in the blog space. I have heard paraphrased a quote from John Breen, who is one of the blog brothers, and he also wrote The Fault in Our Stars and a couple other mega hits.
Fantastic.
And I think he said something along the lines of, he uses his blog to create content that is very engaging to the point where his focus isn't on getting millions and millions of views, but just to have a very engaged, in-depth connection with a more limited array of viewers. And so that might be kind of an advantage of blogs, that even if it lacks the virality or the shareability of a higher budget production, it still gives a greater intimacy that can potentially form a stronger connection with your audience.
And again, you can kind of see how that turns into sales. Phil is going to join us real quick. Phil, if you want to have a seat over here. We're just going through different types of video that are available, and we happen to just fall onto live video as you walk in, and so you can kind of see how live video works. So you gotta deal with it. So
he can't pretend to not be late.
Yep. It's all caught up on here, and that sometimes part of the fun of it is you get to see people interacting. You get to see how things really work behind the scenes, and we've seen a lot of success with our own live videos with showing the behind-the-scenes types of things. So sometimes when you watch a webinar, you hear it and they're so clean, or they just seem to be so perfect or almost pre-recorded. If you do the live version, you really get to see what goes into it and kind of understand how it would be for you to do your own type of live events. And so I know, Dave, we were talking briefly, you haven't done a lot of live. Do you have much experience in this space or thoughts?
I don't have a ton of experience. The most closely I've been exposed to it was when Studio C did a live behind-the-scenes taping of one of our stage productions. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me was just how high the engagement was on that video. Like, the comments were just coming in lightning fast. You almost couldn't keep up with them. It would appear and it'd just shoot way down the comment feed. So live to me seems like a great way to get, in-the-moment engagement from your viewers, I think.
Any thoughts, Phil?
One of the things I've appreciated with the late shows is usually they're taped, run delays, and they were taped earlier in the day, so the news isn't relevant. But Stephen Colbert, if you followed during the Republican National Committee, decided he wanted to have a different experience. So he, and the time, and by the time you record East Coast and try to get West Coast, so he was running shows, taping them, not taping, but running them live at 11 p.m. at night. And so he and his team are exhausted. But he was determined to have real, time coverage on what was happening at the Republican National Convention. He wanted to make sure that he beat everybody else that would comment on it the next day. And that engagement online was so interesting because everybody loved it. And he, had struggled with reviews initially when he kind of transitioned, to kind of that, to that. But since then, I think has recovered and has done these types of things that has said, hey, I'm a real person. Let's just do this live and go for it and not, Anyway, so it was interesting to even see a late show do some live and kind of.
And I think he comes from a background in improv, which
yes.
I'm sure lends
so he's a little
itself
more,
to that style.
Yeah, he's a little bit more comfortable, and I think people appreciated that. So.
Very cool. Just moving on real quickly, some other of the video marketing that we think that you should be using, how-to videos, as we've talked about. One of the fastest growing and most consumed and engaged type of video online right now. Those include even demonstration videos, but we can go even further and do video and email. There's a couple of providers who are currently kind of testing that out, and they've had success with getting through the spam filters and some of the different ESP requirements that in the past have made it more difficult for us to get a video in, and even just having the technology to be doing that. So it is still kind of early, but it's definitely a lot of fun for the companies that have done it. And then employee introductions and cultural events. Fluid, we do a lot of this, and those are some of our most engaged and some of the most consumed videos that we have. We find that people really want to know who they're working with and come to trust them and believe they're not only just business people after the dollar, but actually real people who have their own personalities, and they want to see that match up with their own corporate identity to see if they're a good fit. And so we've used a lot of different types of videos, and this by no means is comprehensive, but we just want to give you guys a few different ideas of how you guys could be using them. Did I miss anything that you guys want to include? Okay. So we want to quickly transition and talk about what really makes a great video, and Dave's going to walk us through the 3 golden means of that, and I think it's really important on how to conceptualize a video, produce a video, and then even distribute the video. And so I'm going to turn the time over to Dave if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I think I'm on the wrong slide, so let me find the correct ones. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so just thinking on my experience with ad writing thus far with the Squatty Potty, VidAngel, Purple Ads, FiberFix, and whatnot, there have been a few things that stuck out to me as principles where, in my mind, the ideal ad kind of lands in the middle along an extreme or along some kind of continuum. So the first one that sticks out to me is comedy. So I've seen, a few different extremes in the use of comedy. One is an entire lack of comedy. So I think of, like, if you think of your typical car dealership ad, very straightforward, very boring, usually poor production quality, and you come away knowing what they do, but you're not engaged at all. You can't wait for it to end, right? It hits the necessary points, but really doesn't create any kind of engagement with the customer. On the other extreme end There are some ads.
Just to jump in real quick, we actually have gone through that exact experience with what kind of a creative agency versus an automotive are looking at, and obviously we lean towards that comedy and creative and whatnot, and they want to make sure they have the product itself and all of that involved. And so what it turned out is we actually did a not a case study, but a group, a focus group, excuse me, and so we'll actually be coming out with some of those results, and so maybe we'll be able to report on kind of what side really won out or what people really are looking for. So it's interesting you had mentioned that.
Oh, great. So I consider that to be one extreme, relevant but not funny, and then I consider the other extreme to be funny but not relevant. So I don't know, have any of you seen the "That's Not My Mommy" ad? Where it's So it's a British ad. It's a mom driving her little, probably like 5-year-old daughter in the back of her car. She gets pulled over. The cop asks for her license for speeding. And then he asks the little girl, are you having a fun day with mommy? And the girl says, that's not my mommy. And holds up a little paper that says help, and the cop like yells for mom. Anyway, so it's a hilarious ad. I've seen it multiple times. It makes me crack up every time. But thinking on this concept, I couldn't remember what it was advertising for. So I went and rewatched it. It's advertising for the Young Director Award, and it ends with the tagline, "Born to Create Drama," or something like that. So it's very funny, but because it wasn't relevant, it wasn't like directly relevant to the Young Director Award, I didn't come away remembering what it was for. And so I consider those to be the two extremes. First, relevant but not funny, then funny but not relevant. And I think the sweet spot is finding something that's irrelevant funny, so that first golden mean. And for me, a wonderful example of that is Old Spice's "The Man Your Man Could Smell Like," which is hilarious, right? And at first it seems like a totally inane and maybe random ad, but if you go back and rewatch it, it does fit. The funny does fit the product. It makes total sense that the spokesperson for Old Spice, a deodorant company, should be this lady killer who's super suave and has all the moves and can create this magical paradise for all the ladies watching. And to me, that's an example of what I like to call a post-predictable funny. So there's a book called Made to Stick that talks about how things that are memorable shouldn't be predictable, but they should often be post-predictable, where you hear it and you're like, oh, that makes sense. I never would have seen that coming. But once I've heard the concept, yeah, that makes sense that you would present it in this way.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like learning a new word, after you've learned it, you start to hear it everywhere, and it just kind of comes up. And you're like,
oh, yeah, sure, after you recognize it. Yeah, and I would say we try to do that. We tried to do that with Harmon Brothers ads. So, for instance, with the purple ad, we thought Goldilocks was a good spokesperson because, maybe you've never seen her as a mattress spokesperson, but as soon as you do, it makes sense. Oh, yeah, of course, Goldilocks tried out several different beds. Who better to be your bed expert, right?
Sure.
And I think another thing to consider when it comes to the incorporation of comedy into your ads is what I like to call joking downstream, which means that every joke or every funny that you add to your ad should contribute to the sale rather than pulling you out of it. And once I recognize this concept, now when I see it at play, it drives me crazy when people joke upstream. When all of a sudden there's a joke inserted in that, yeah, it's funny, but it totally pulls you out of the sale, or it diverts your attention, and then you have to do, another workaround to get back into the sale. Mm-hmm. So again, "The Man Your Man Could Smell Like" is a great example of that, because everything he's saying, even if it's almost nonsense, is contributing to this mystique of, oh, buy this deodorant if you want to be a lady killer.
Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic example.
Number two, so in terms of that relevant and funny, and then I know, Dave, you wanted to kind of talk about some of the viral nature, how to, and it's interesting, we've talked viral videos for years. I've heard from our clients, just make me a viral video. Mm-hmm. And usually our response is, we can make you a video, but there's no guarantee it can go viral. But I think, we've looked to you and what you've done at the Harmon Brothers, that you've almost, not guaranteed, but there's a science behind how to help a video go viral. So we'd love to learn a little bit about, some of your thoughts on that and some key principles there.
Yeah, well, so I'll get to that answer, what we say to clients when they ask for a viral video. But before I do, let's talk about, again, with this golden mean, what are the two extremes, right? Sure. So on one end, I think you have the pure pitch that doesn't really have high engagement. And again, I would go to the car world. I think we've all seen the ad for a car that's just stats, just boring numbers and terms that maybe you're not familiar with, and trying to show you how they're differentiated from other products without being at all engaging or shareable. I consider that to be an example of like the pure pitch. No amount of shareability, no viral coefficient, right? So
Right.
no shares per view, that kind of thing. I couldn't find a memorable example to bring up because they're often just not memorable at all.
The problem and the point.
Right. So that first extreme, I think, is the pure pitch. I think the second extreme is something that relies purely on shareability or something that relies purely on virality. And I feel bad bringing up this ad as an example. But I actually really enjoy this ad. But have either of you seen the Cheerios How to Dad ad? It's a wonderful ad from like a branding perspective, and it's very fun. But it relies entirely on, like, once you put it online, it relies entirely on shareability for it to be successful at all, right? Because it's not a sales ad. They have, by the time they mention Cheerios, that's the one part of the ad that sucks because it feels so shoehorned. I think the line is, after he does all these very, very cool dad things, and you're very much in the spirit of it, he says, dads are awesome, just like Cheerios are awesome. And you're just like, oh, that felt so contrived. Anyway, so it's not a strong sales ad, and as a result, for it to do well, it really has to be, I think, heavily shared online for it to find legs there. Yeah. And so the golden mean we shoot for at Harmon Brothers is we try to make it powerful enough that it doesn't have to be viral. And what we mean by that is we try to make it as entertaining as possible so it has the potential for a viral coefficient. But then with that said, we try to make the sales strong enough within that entertaining world that it gets a good ROI. So if I spend $1 on it, to promote it online, it brings in $10 or $5 or $2, whatever ROI I need to be able to continue to spend on it. And if it goes viral, awesome. If we get millions,
you're not relying on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
If it goes viral, we try to make it as funny as possible, as engaging as possible, so that it can go viral. But then we're not counting on that.
Right.
So we tell that to clients. We say we actually don't know. We don't have like a magic. We don't have a silver bullet for virality. We know how to make strong sales videos that very often go viral with the entertainment that we pack into them.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't count on it. So I think a great example of that is the Dollar Shave Club, where it's a very strong sales ad, and it did go viral. It got millions of views. Yep. But if it hadn't gone viral, I'm convinced they still would have gotten the ROI they needed to spend it up to millions of views. And that actually might have contributed to some of their, I think it has like 23 million views on YouTube or something like that. So our mindset, again, is we think of virality as a bonus that we, sometimes win.
Yeah, and even in your example with Cheerios, I mean, they start talking about shaving from the very first moment of that ad. That's they are, what the product is instantaneously, but then they add that entertainment value onto it. Yeah, it's a fantastic ad and a great example for them.
To be fair to Cheerios and to be fair to car dealerships, it's probably harder to make your ad when you don't really have like a differentiating quality. So like Dollar Shave Club and the companies we get to do ads for, Harmon Brothers and VidAngel, we all have like a very strong differentiator that we can focus in on in the ad. When you're in like a very commoditized space, I imagine that it's harder.
Yeah. But one quick question before we go on to your third point is just on the viral piece, is there a tipping point that you can spend to start to get enough eyeballs that people start to see it has traction? Usually if you look at a video and it has, 1,000 views, you're kind of like, probably not worth sharing. But if you look to the right and say, wow, that video has, 50,000 views. So is there a component where you're spending enough, where it kind of begins to tip the scale? And, I'm just curious in that, those that have gone viral, have you seen that there's been enough investment in sharing on your end that you're kind of setting the perfect storm for it to go viral in that, there's a tipping point and some principles behind that?
It hasn't usually unfolded that way. Generally, our ads that have gone viral, quote unquote, it usually happens pretty early on.
Oh, really?
I think a couple reasons for that are, one, well, once you start spending on an ad, at least on Facebook, Facebook actually hurts your sharing algorithm. So they see, oh, these guys can afford to spend on this ad, so we're going to hurt their sharing algorithm so that a share doesn't get as many eyeballs to force them to spend more, which I think is pretty insidious. I don't think they should punish you for having virality or for having, a good ROI or a successful ad spend. Another thing is that I believe that the algorithms kind of hurt you the older your ad is. So usually the time to hit it, to hit that sweet spot is pretty early on in the first couple of days.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So on the purpose, I'm talking to some of those extremes.
Yeah, okay, so this third golden mean, and you'll see some overlap with the previous point. So purpose. On one extreme, you see ads that are made purely from a brand standpoint. So I get a lot of that feeling from companies that have a spokesperson. Like, I think Aflac is a typical example. Like, I could tell you nothing about Aflac except that they have a goose that says Aflac, right? So I have tons of brand recognition. And the purpose of those ads, right, is to make you come away with positive feelings towards the company. I don't know if the Aflac duck or goose or whatever it is makes me feel positive. I'm certain Flow does not give me positive feelings towards Progressive. But the idea is, come out with these branded ads, make people feel positive things, and then, like kind of a trickle-down effect, people will come to your product. I personally feel like purely branded ads are a huge cop-out. Anytime I'm working with a vendor who tells me, oh, we won't get you sales, but we'll get a lot of brand value, then I'm like, okay, I'm out. That feels like a very cop-out answer. On the other extreme side, I think you have pure sales, where I think the infomercial is the best example of that. So if you watch, an old infomercial on daytime TV, it's all about, oh, you have this problem, we have this solution, let me resolve your concerns, and, hit these points over and over again. And you come away maybe not having positive feelings towards this brand or not having a character to associate with it per se, but you know exactly what it does, which of your problems it solves. So I think those are the two extremes, and then the sweet spot we try to hit at Harmon Brothers is branded sales. So we try to really go through a strong, sales argument, but with a very entertaining spokesperson. So you get kind of both worlds, where there's a character and this distinct aesthetic and distinct voice selling you on this product and on why you need it. So that's definitely what we've tried to hit with, with Hyperfix. You have a manly man telling you about this tape that's as strong as steel. With our VidAngel ad that just came out, you have first a devil in hell dissing on our competitors, and then an angel in heaven saying, "Hey, come to movie heaven, where movie watching is an optimal experience." And then Goldilocks, the Poopery ad, is this British girl on a toilet, and that may not feel like a character, but everybody remembers the British girl on a toilet, right? Even though she's
prim and proper, and
she's prim and proper, but she's sitting on a toilet, and she's just walking you through a basic infomercial script, except it's very funny.
Fantastic. And I have to apologize, I actually got caught up just listening to Dave, and so I think we're caught up on slides, but I was so entertained, I won't lie, I was lost. So we'll go back up
my makeup tutorial.
Right?
Spellbinding.
Fantastic. Well, Dave, thank you for that. I think that was really an amazing assessment of the three golden means and how people really should be using them. The examples were fantastic, and I think for everybody out there, there's a ton of information in that to consume, and hopefully as you go in to do your own strategies, you can be thinking about some of these things and see if you can't do it, or even when you're looking for a video providing company to have some of the understanding that I think Dave just provided to us.
Hey, sorry, we're coming back to the third meeting. It is interesting, though. I think if you can do the right brand play on the purpose of the ad and with couple with sales, that's when you start to hit stride. I think about Aflac, and when you talk to an Aflac agent, there's at least brand recognition. So you get that.
Yeah.
And it does support the sales team, and it's almost like it provides air cover, but in and of itself, it doesn't provide actionable insight.
Sure.
And it's not driving revenue. So it's interesting to say, why not do both?
Yeah. So maybe because I haven't worked with a company with like an on-the-ground sales team, but I feel like it's a cop-out. But
no, but
it probably works for Aflac.
Well, but I think every video should have purpose, and why not contribute to revenue? Yeah. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Well, and we want to just kind of talk about how to get started with video. There's a number of different ways, obviously, but I think a lot of the reason we have our attendees today is to better understand how they can add this channel into their own marketing mix.
And as we get into this, it's interesting, just on a high level, so many times being with a professional agency, people will say, well, how would you shoot this? And they're shocked sometimes when we're talking about certain types of video. I'll say, well, you can just use your iPhone. And they say, you would really recommend that? You don't have to have a professional crew for every video. And I think the cost would be exorbitant, you know.
Yeah.
We can't afford that. And so it's interesting to even get people's reaction that there are different types of video.
Absolutely.
You know, as you do your video marketing. So.
Nope, and you're completely right, and we'll talk even on our next slide about iPhones, but I think the first part, and Phil, you can talk to this, but just when we do introduce video to people, that there is a lot of either sticker shock or a lot of resource concern. And so I don't know, Phil, if you want to talk a little bit about how clients react when they start a conversation with video, and maybe some of those big ideas that they think are very scary but may or may not be as scary as they think.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, just this morning I had 2 clients reach out to me to say, okay, we want to do a video. What do you recommend? And one path was, our budget's $2,000 or $3,000, and I said, for what you want to try to do in live action, yes, there's an affordable option. I probably wouldn't go through a major production studio. Here's the name and number of a freelancer that does this. They don't have a lot of high overhead, and so you're still able to do something. Usually the rule of thumb is, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but if you go on shoot something that's not exorbitant, it's typically about $2,000 per finished minute. So it doesn't have to be extreme. We've shot commercials that are $20,000 for 30 seconds. So it kind of depends on the production quality and how many actors are involved, what you're trying to do.
I don't know if I can weigh in super authoritatively because we tend to err towards the exorbitant.
Well, but it kind of depends on what you're trying to drive.
Yeah, sure.
And on the other end, the other conversation I had today was just around the lines of, we want to do animated video. We've done some work, and so it doesn't have to be something that scares you. You should plan on spending, at least in the thousands. You can get a decent video, through a freelancer for maybe $5,000 if it's just a minute or two. But from my perspective, if you want to make this your brand video that really represents you, but kind of is driving to sales, and you should plan on spending a little bit more. At least in above 10 in the teens, and of course you can go above that. So it doesn't have to be tens of thousands of dollars, but you want to make sure that you're aligned right in terms of the end quality and kind of the resources you pull.
So, I think one of the other things is just to understand what channel are you going to be distributing it on. And so if it's your local blog, does it have to be a $20,000 video? Probably not. But if you are going to send it out into the marketplace and you want it to maybe go viral, or you just want it to really represent your brand as best possible, then you might want to spend a little bit more. But I think that's one of the other considerations. And I find if you're doing something on your own website, you obviously want it to match the quality of your site, but at the same time, people understand that you're trying to give them more emotion and teach them more about yourselves, and so they might actually really like that. And so there's a lot of ways to look at it, and I think the most important takeaway is that it's not that hard to get video going, and there's a lot of options, whether it's a third-party resource or if you wanted to do something in-house. There's a lot of ways to do it and just do it right, and I think it's more about the strategy behind the whole concept.
I would add to that. You mentioned, virality is a higher priority. That higher production is being valued more and more as internet video becomes more sophisticated.
True.
I mean, you look at the early days of YouTube and the Charlie Bitby days when a video like that could go mega viral, and then their chances of going viral today are much lower, right?
Sure.
Because they're up against much more sophisticated and higher production video content. So if virality or shareability is a high priority, then I think I would, emphasize or prioritize high production a little bit more.
And it definitely depends on the brand, too, or it depends on the purpose, meaning I could have a really funny home video that I send out that goes viral, but it's not like I'm making money.
Yeah.
But if you're a brand, you almost have to try harder, because if it looks cheap and looks overly contrived, then people write you off immediately. The last thing I was going to say is, it's interesting, even with different clients we work with, we get a spectrum of videos. So for a particular client, I'm thinking of, we're doing a, kind of a decent production and where Fluid can actually go out and do some filming and, capture customer testimonials and stories, but we'll engage a professional production studio to capture kind of a higher brand video. But then we recommend them, you should be doing vlogging, you know, and you don't have to have much in terms of a camera and some good audio, you know, your phone and some audio equipment. So it's interesting, even with every company, I think there's a spectrum that they need to engage in, that every project doesn't have to be the same approach in terms of resources and investment. It kind of comes down to the end purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I even just think, you know, Facebook right now, it's an iPhone app. You know, so obviously it's made for an iPhone. They're not looking for these high production videos. They want to help you get to your market, and to what you were earlier saying, Facebook really has changed its algorithm so that video is so important. And right now, Facebook is not promoting your normal content. So the articles and different things that you've done previously, you basically lost impression share, and they moved to a monetary model, meaning you basically pay to play. And that's just for what you used to post, and these are the people who already follow you. You earned these followers, and Facebook just up and kind of took them away from you. But in order to increase native video view, they're going to take these live videos, and they're actually going to promote that out to every single person in your group and send them an alert that you're on, not just put it in their feed. And so they're doing a lot of things to encourage you to engage in this at pretty much any rate. So do want to talk about quickly just some of the different things that you can do to start using video marketing today. Again, we talked about the iPhone or you know, another video camera. You can get pretty pricey in some really high-end video cameras. It's almost fun to go to the store and see what's out there. And I think, is it a RED camera? Is that still a thing? I used to hear a lot about the RED.
We use those occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, just saying, how much does a RED camera cost?
I don't know, man. I can shoot on my iPhone.
I think it's well over, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000.
Oh, I think it's well over that. I think you're hundreds. And so, I mean, you can go really deep into this, but that's more the production. But you can also just stick with your iPhone or even just a regular camera that you can pick up at Best Buy for, you know, a fairly minimal amount. Audio equipment is something else to be considered, and right now there's a lot of fairly decent audio packages out there. One thing I didn't include on this slide necessarily is lighting equipment, and again, there's some fairly affordable. All these things have really, in my opinion, come down since I started kind of looking at video about 10 years ago for my company, and I think I paid about a quarter for the exact same video, or excuse me, lighting package that I paid in 2005 that I recently bought again in about 2013. And so just in a few short years, the cost of these things is coming down as well. I think one other thing about starting to use video marketing is to have a willing corporate participant. So for us, we often do ad of the week, and we do employees, and it's not something that everybody wants to do, is get behind a camera. And so I don't know if either of you guys want to talk to some of the challenges of, I think you're probably taking more actors and people who are prepared to do this, but in the blogging world, it's not everybody really wants it to be the star, I guess.
No, there's resistance. I was talking to a client yesterday about doing a video with them, and they said, okay, of our 5 partners, this one won't do it. He just refused to get the camera, so we can represent the 4, and it's just interesting. People do have that kind of reluctancy, and so you know, so you typically get a little more airtime on those that are at least willing to, you know, get behind the camera and maybe a local company. So it's interesting. I just did a video for Homey. They're a local startup here. We sold our home for Homey, had a great experience. And we're actually starting to engage them as be a marketing partner for them. They came down and saw my wife and I at our home for a testimonial, and, you know, brought all the lighting, production, professional audio equipment to shoot the testimonial. And, you know, my wife was, you know, she does great every time, and at the end of the day, I'm the willing participant, and I look like the dork. And she actually looks great. She was the one that was a little reluctant to
be on camera.
Yeah, to be on camera, but that's kind of how it pans out. So.
And then just another few quick thoughts is, you know, shoot something small, try it, and you don't have to post it. You can always work on something and see
if Facebook Live.
Yeah, I mean, at this point we're pretty into it, but there's a lot of different things. You know, you can try that video, and if you do the iPhone, if you do a talking head video, you know, get an intern and see if they can make it the quality that you want. But if not, you know, it's not something that you have to immediately post. And so I think you should dabble a little bit and see if it's right for you, and not just completely write video off.
And I think that there is something to be said for, you never know how totally good it go for your own company, and so try a little bit, make a small investment, and see how the reaction happens. And then from there, that's probably going to determine your strategy. So you might even be setting strategy as you get into it versus thinking, okay, we're not going to invest 100,000 in video this next year. What do we do? I think it's good to try it out a little bit and review a few ways. So,
absolutely. So quickly, just to summarize today, I think, video is obviously fun and has been ridiculously effective. The channels themselves are putting more emphasis on them and encouraging people to do them, which kind of comes with a counter, meaning more people are doing them. And so the space gets a little bit more competitive, and maybe the production value does need to go up a bit for you to be an outlier within that group. But consumers themselves expect video, and so it's almost time to play in this space. It's continuing to be wanted and shared, and as we have user-generated content being a major factor in SEO and pretty much all marketing as far as reviews and things of that nature, video is a great way to do that. And reviews are one thing that we didn't necessarily talk about yet, but having a video review can be another kind of low-budget, small way to really help your business. But at the same time, reviews are inherently, I guess, distrusted for the fact that they could be easily made up and you can send a stock photo. So if you actually have a video of somebody reviewing right next to your product, how powerful is that going to be versus just a text reference? And so I think that's something that you should really consider, even as a landing page. How can you include that as a trust symbol for your company? There are different types of video marketing, obviously, and I think most importantly in our summary is the 3 golden means. I can't express how fantastic I really thought that was, but Dave told us it was relevant, funny, shareable pitch, and branded sales, which are the 3 golden means. Don't let it overwhelm you as well. I think that video is something everybody can kind of dabble in, and people are kind of scared of it. I hear that about a lot of marketing tactics, actually, and then once people kind of dive in, they find it's not quite as difficult as they think. And there's a lot of resources out there, whether it's an agency or a video production company or just whatever it might be. There's ways to get it done, and again, there's even how-to videos online. You could always check those out. So it's a lot out there. So and
one, I was just going to say one final thought is that I do think that as you begin video, eventually you need to get to the point to say, how do we measure return on investment? I do think that with every video strategy, you eventually need to say, how does this drive new leads? How does this drive our interaction with customers? Not every video does that. But I do think, to what Dave talked about earlier, that branded sales, I think there always is an opportunity, whether it's driving more traffic, more engagement, whether it's promoting a product, you begin to embed certain calls to action. As you get more sophisticated in your video marketing, you'll eventually get there. But it's important to know that, from turning eyes to buys, it is actually more than doable, and I think a lot of what the Harmon Brothers has done has proven that out. So.
Dave, any final thoughts?
I just think it's a lot less scary than it seems once you dive into it. It's, I think film is one of those worlds where, because the terminology is unfamiliar, it can seem overwhelming, but once you've given it a try or two, it's pretty easy to get in the swing of things, I think.
Absolutely. So that kind of wraps up the webinar. At this point, normally in our webinar, we would go live on Facebook with our Q&A, but since we're already live, we're just going to go ahead and jump into it. If anybody does still want to catch the live version of this, you can switch over to Facebook. You have that link in the comments, and so for those following us on the actual webinar portion of that, if you wanted to move over, feel free to do so. And then for the rest of us watching live on Facebook, we'll just go ahead and begin with some questions as well. So the first question that came in, and I think we kind of touched on this, but what is the difference between video for B2B and video for B2C? Phil, do you want to tackle that first?
It's interesting. The B2C, I think both can have the element of funny and brand, but the audience is really much larger on the consumer side. Mm-hmm. And that's even just true of any marketing strategy, B2B versus B2C. And so I think you can, number one, you have to entertain probably a lot more because people are watching this maybe in a non-business environment. And it is interesting, though. I mean, usually it's more of a consultative type sales that you're developing a relationship and there's more investment there. And so usually it's helping in that educational funnel process, it's not so much by the day, but it usually is helping them be comfortable with you as a business and hear from others testimonials. Whereas the B2C, you can very much focus on educating, entertaining, and asking people to buy. Usually the investment isn't tens of thousands of dollars like B2B, and that's kind of going through the funnel. The B2C is usually buy this product that's $1,000 or $500 or less. And so, with the Dollar Shave Club, that going, from a B2C perspective, $1.
Yeah.
And as you look to kind of how, kind of those subscription models for consumers, I do think you have to spend as much, sometimes a little bit more, but your audience, it allows you to be a little bit more playful and
maybe because comedy allows you to make a sale that they buy on a whim a little bit more, whereas maybe no one makes purchases on a whim.
Usually not.
Yeah. It's an important
hopefully.
thought.
Yeah.
I like to accentuate that. B2B, definitely people are considering more. Kind of to expand on this, Dave, are you seeing when, B2B and B2C companies, I guess, come to you guys and see if are they requesting very specific videos, one side versus the other? Do you notice that at all?
To my knowledge, Harmon Brothers has not done a B2B video. It's mostly B2C.
Mm-hmm. And so consumers are able to kind of understand that Harmon Brothers specialize in B2C, and they're kind of self-selecting in their way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so I'm not as involved on the client development side, so I'm not very familiar with, maybe a lot of people have reached out for B2B and it hasn't worked out, or we've turned them down.
Yeah.
But up until now, it's been all B2C.
We've seen that. We see more interest, investment for the B2C type companies we work with in B2B. B2B sees the value, and it's usually more of a content marketing play versus more of a commercial, sales promo, buy now, get it out.
Good question. Have you ever made a bad video, and what did you do about it? I don't want to point this at you, Dave, thinking you probably haven't, but maybe you have a great story from early on.
I've made plenty of bad Studio C sketches, for what that's worth. A bad ad. I would say a couple of the VidAngel ads we did on a fairly low budget weren't great, and I think that was a little bit of the benefit of being able to do things on a shoestring budget and just trying things out, was that we could make those cheaper mistakes without it, costing us tens of thousands of dollars or what have you. I think in those cases, it's just a good opportunity to pay attention to how your audience responds to the ad. If it's not performing well, show it to a number of test audiences, ask questions like, were these jokes landing? Were they making sense? What part of the sales structure wasn't working for you? Or why were you not drawn in to buy this product? And just using it as a learning opportunity. We've been fortunate that I don't think we've made a big ad that has been bad. I think our big ads have pretty much all succeeded, luckily.
Awesome. Next question. Are there any industries that video just isn't a good option for? Good thoughts. I guess I'll weigh in on that. And
Braille. Sorry, that's probably insensitive. I apologize.
And even in that situation with auditory, it can be quite effective. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. But I think, in my opinion, there probably are some, and it's based on your consumer. Is your consumer really there? And so in most cases, consumers are looking at everything, but not all the time. And so it's hard to pinpoint one specific industry, but there are some that are a little bit more behind in the technological sense. And so I don't know that it's a bad industry to do it for, but it just may be early, and it may not have the reach or effect that you hope for it, and there may be other channel considerations that would be better. Not to say that video would be bad, but other than that, I think that creativity, comedy, storyline, you can make pretty much a video for anything, and if you just do it well, you can make the most boring thing look fun for a minute. And so I think that's the major challenge that you're going after, and so that's what I would consider. I don't know if you guys have any more on that.
I mean, I would say the mega trends, what we're seeing from a macro perspective, is people's consumption patterns are turning a lot more digital and audio visual, and they want to have an experience. So I'll find myself, I get to a news article, and if it's, I would rather watch a 2-minute video about something than read 5 paragraphs. Maybe I'm just lazy, but it's almost like I prefer to just be entertained.
Dave's fault, we discussed earlier.
No, but it's interesting. I think that not only is the trending that way, but I look at the younger generation. Even on Sunday, I was teaching a lesson, and it's like I was up there talking, and here I am in person trying to engage them. I think I try to feel they actually start paying attention. And I just think that younger generation especially is, responds very favorably.
And the statistics are showing that. It's actually showing that consumers are expecting a omni-channel approach and a consistent content experience from mobile to desktop. And so video is one of the things that can do that, where a lot of the other text and things that people don't want to engage with quite as much on their mobile phone isn't as cross-channel friendly. So I think just time for one more question, and I think this will give to Dave here, but what should I look for when selecting a third-party video company?
Third-party video company. I would look at track record. If they don't have a track record of making ads that really sell and that get a good ROI so that you can, keep spending and build the view count, build that funnel. If they don't have a track record, then I would hope that they're willing to do your ad for fairly cheap so that they can build that track record. And I would look for people who are collaborative. We find that our best ads come when we're very immersed in the product, when we get a lot of feedback from the client, and when we understand where they're coming from, they understand where we're coming from, and we're able to make it kind of a synergistic process rather than the ad agency just kind of running point and not getting feedback.
Any other thoughts, Bill?
No, I mean, I think that the back end of that is what Harmon Brothers has been so successful at. It's not just the setup, the filming, the storyline, and creating the piece, but then post promotion of it. And I think you would at least have a plan in place or a strategy before. Once we've developed this video, how will it be used? And I just think that's an important piece. You can't separate the two. It's silly to go invest $20,000 in video if you don't know. How you'll then distribute it and get value and, be able to increase the view count. So.
And if you guys have a couple more minutes, we did have a couple questions come in here still, and I want to get to everybody. I'm going to go ahead and just cut off the questions here, though. And so we just have 2 more that we'll go ahead and answer. And so the first is the comment, how to make the most boring thing become fun, reminds me of testimonial videos that I'm brainstorming right now. Any ideas or examples of people that have made really great and fun testimonials?
Out of boring videos, or out of a boring product?
I think the question is more just fun testimonials in general. How do you make a testimonial more fun than just somebody, a face talking, Any thoughts?
By testimonial, is your understanding that they're referring to like a customer review or something like that? Like, this product worked for me?
I believe so. Ryan, correct us if we're wrong here.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess my thought would be either get a very entertaining customer who is either already naturally funny or can be coached to be funny, or maybe don't go the testimonial route. I don't know. What's your thought there?
I think part of it is just the setup. If you think your testimonial video is just finding somebody in a room that you're filming with a white wall behind them, that probably would be pretty boring. But I think if you can make it a little bit more interesting, maybe where they're at, maybe you even have a green screen and you're filming them, and you're trying to, in the post-production, make that a little bit more interesting. Based on what they're saying and doing. I saw a great kind of video series recently of little kids talking, and as they're talking, what's happening is you're illustrating, kind of with what's happening on the right. So the kids are talking and saying and correcting themselves, and you see them kind of cross off the illustration. No, that's not right. And so it's interesting where I think you could almost take people's words, even when they're trying to not be funny and entertaining, and almost what you do in post-production, have some fun with it. Not where you're making fun of them, but you're just making it more engaging for the user.
Gotcha.
Through visuals.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think visuals, one of the things that we've done is we've taken our ad of the week and previously we just used it as a link, and now we're kind of adding some of the ad into the background as our employee is kind of pitching what the ad is going to be, and we found a lot more success of that, and it's become more engaging. And so the visuals and how you kind of put those in the background of what's going on are a really great idea, in my opinion, and they make it so it's not just staring at this person the whole time, but you break it up a little bit. So how can you add fun visuals to it, I think, is a great idea. And then the last question is, do you think a brand should do more vlogs or how-to videos? What will engage more and why?
I almost think about for every video you go spend 5 or 10 or 15, 20,000 on, the commercials, nicer pieces, kind of a build up. I almost think for every one of those you ought to be doing, 10 vlogs, right? Because it's fairly inexpensive, and it's that type of content. Your view count may not be tens of thousands, but we've even seen from one of our customers, Orbit Irrigation Products, they haven't gone out and hired a huge production company to go produce these, award-winning films, but collectively speaking, they've done hundreds, and they have, I think, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views, because it's just that how-to video, and that, at that point, it's that consistency, and it's that, hey, I know if I have a question, I can go find an answer, and it's applicable to me in that video. And so I think it more has to do with when you're looking for a good vlog topic or a good how-to video, it's probably go talk to customer support, go talk to yourself and say, what are people always asking? And you probably come up with 5 or 6 right then and do videos on them. So I think there's a ratio. Maybe for every one a little bit nicer produced video, you should be doing 5 or 6 or even 10, kind of vlogs or how-to videos that are more iPhone production quality.
Sure. Expanding that from more of a digital point of view, I think that SEO people are definitely going to be pushing you to find out what is actually a relevant key term. How-to right now is a very popular search. And so just by having how-to in your title, you may make that product more engageable because it will simply be found more. Does that mean that you can't do keyword research and SEO optimization for a blog? No, but the fact that what are people typing might really apply for your business to a how-to video, whereas if you're not in the necessarily how-to video realm of things, that's not your service or your product per se, then a blog could be a little bit more fun, and you could get around the what is a more stringent, how-to kind of, it's a step-by-step 1, 2, 3 type of a thing, whereas a blog could probably bounce around a little bit more and you could be a little bit more creative with it. And so I really think it's dependent on the product or service that you're providing. You guys, that is all the time we have for today. We really appreciate all the questions that you have sent in and your time with us. I want to invite you guys to attend our next month's webinar. It'll be on the 3rd Tuesday of the month as usual, and we'll be announcing the theme of that in an upcoming email. And so for everybody who didn't get to ask all their questions or wanted to continue following along, remember you can find us at the hashtag Fluid Webinar Series or direct message us at GetFluid and at VidAngel. Thanks again and have a great day.